The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship makes its way to Braselton, Georgia this weekend and Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta for the running of the 23rd annual Petite Le Mans. But before the running of that iconic 10-hour classic, it's time to crown a champion in the IMSA Prototype Challenge Series. It's the 2020 season finale, a 3-hour affair here on NBCSN. It's the IMSA Prototype Challenge Series Round 6 from Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta in Braselton, Georgia. Hello everyone, I'm Brian Till. Jeremy Shaw will be joining me in just a bit to help call what's sure to be an action-filled day. But first, take a look at the weather. A brisk 60 degrees this morning, clear skies and a slight breeze out of the southeast, but most importantly, zero chance of rain. The 2020 season has come down to this: 3 hours around Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta to crown the champions. K2R Motorsports and their drivers Naveen Rao and Matt Bell have led the points since the second round of the season at Sebring. But the 54 MLT Motorsports entry and driver Dakota Dickerson sit second, only 6 points back. And this is where the championship for IMSA Prototype Challenge will be decided, just north of Atlanta, Georgia, in Braselton, Georgia. One of the most difficult 2.5 miles of asphalt you'll find in North America. High speed sections, turn 1, very, very quick. The daunting S's down to turn 5. 6 and 7, you can get some passes done, but you want that good run out of 7 because that takes you to the best passing zone on the racetrack. Heavy braking from close to 165 miles an hour into turn 10. It is a glorious, cool day. Welcome everyone. Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw. We will take you all the way to the checkered flag. A 3-hour enduro to decide the championship. Jeremy, take us through the grid.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Right an early start for these guys today. 3-hour race, the final round, 6th and final round of this year's IMSA Prototype Challenge. 14 cars. From the back, car number 60 is Bruce Hamilton III. Alongside him, Greg Palmer in car number 3. Row 6 is Paul LaHaye in car number 86, alongside Joel Janko in car number 47. Lance Willsey will start car number 33 from the 10th position, alongside Joe Robillard in car number 10 and row 4. Cameron Castles in car number 75, and Jerry Crouch, two-time winner this season, in car number 9. Dan Goldberg in car number 6, and car number 74, John Brownson, will share row 3. Row 2 is Dominic Cicero, very much with the championship aspirations today in car number 54 for MLT Motorsports, locally based team, alongside Keith Grant in car number 40. For 47 Motorsports and Norma. 2 Norma M30 chassis on the front row. In the second position, a brilliant qualifying effort for a guy who hadn't even sat in a race car 1 year ago. That's Stephen Thomas in car number 11, and his K2R Motorsports teammate and championship leader in car number 64, Naveen Rao, will start on the pole position.
And we're about to go green as the field underneath the bridge, down the hill through turn 12, looking for the green. 64 on the pole, the third pole position of the season, and Naveen Rao with a good jump at the start.
He did a very good jump at the start. Also a good run there from the inside of the second row, trying to take over second position is Keith Grant. But I think Stephen Thomas was able to hold on in second place.
Well,
2 K2R cars out in front.
Yeah, Dominic Cicero drops to 5th from his 4th place starting position. We talked about the low downforce setting on the 54. It is a very cool day, about 66 degrees here at Road Atlanta, and that means it's going to take a while with that low downforce setting to get these tires up to temperature. And of course, Cicero going to be a little careful right now, making sure that he's got a car to hand over to his teammate Dakota Dickerson, who's trying to win this championship.
That's goal number 1, certainly for Dominic Cicero, bringing the car to Dakota Dickerson in good shape, in one piece and in a good position as well. Top 4 or 5 should be fine for him, and then it's going to come down to strategy. This is, as we've been saying, a 3-hour race, so much longer than the usual hour and 45 minutes. So a lot of strategy will come into play. Some teams might be able to make it on just 2 pit stops in this race, but most likely it's going to be 3 for the majority, unless there's a goodly amount of caution periods. But strategy certainly is going to be crucial.
Cicero now back to 5th as Naveen Rao leads the first lap. All over the back, though, is the 11 of Thomas. Thomas with an excellent qualifying run here, his best of the season in second. And talking to him over the weekend, and his driver coach, Ross Bentley, he is focused so intently over the last year. This is a driver who up until a year ago had never raced a car, and now he's contending for the lead here in an IMSA Prototype Challenge race at Road Atlanta. And hats off to Ross Bentley. He says, Thomas, such a great student. They've driven all kinds of cars, probably 6 or 8 different types of cars he's driven over the last year. And Ross says, I want him to learn something, not how to drive each car, but I want him to learn something from each type of car that he drives, and that builds his resume of knowledge. It's going to make him a better race car driver in this Prototype Challenge class.
A remarkable story, I think, is Stephen Thomas, as you say, just so new to the sport. He really knew nothing at all about the sport about a year ago. So it's been an intense learning curve for him. He's originally from Carl Junction in Missouri, but now makes his home in Venice, California. He's a plaintiff's attorney, so he knows a lot about litigation, but he's learning a lot about race car driving as well. What a super job he is doing. He's all over the back end here of Naveen Rao. Of course, those two running out front, the cars might not look too identical, certainly not identical, but they are teammates.
Well, if you think about the intellect that's in those first 2 cars there, Jeremy, Naveen Rao, I think he's got like 5 different degrees, some of them in things I can't even understand, quantum physics and things like that. And then obviously Stephen Thomas, as you said, a very successful attorney. 2 very smart guys up front, but running third right now, Keith Grant, he and his brother David have qualified well throughout the season. They have two pole positions on the year, and they have come a long way. But I talked to Keith earlier today, and he said we've got to do better on the second stint. Well, today they get a third stint too. They led at VIR. Both brothers had problems in the final turn onto the front straightaway there. That set them back a little bit and took them back to a 5th place finish after they had been leading in that race. But they have showed extreme pace this year, really good pace, and they're showing it again today, running third, good qualifying effort, and now running third in the order. 4th is that blue and red number 6, Dan Goldberg, who's also been very quick with his co-driver, Rasmus Lind, as we saw Lind up here at Sebring. Look at this, Cicero now trying to take advantage of that low downforce, sneaking into the inside. Goldberg, watch off customer, says, no, not right here, not right now. And that's the great thing about Prototype Challenge. You got racing all throughout the field. Greg Palmer has raced here in Porsche GT3 Cup before, racing with his son, and how cool is that? Eric Palmer, 21 years old, gets to go and race prototypes on the weekend with Dad, and that's a great thing. They're going to develop as they work with this Junior 3 racing program. Junior 3, one of the first teams in North America to have the new Ligier chassis, which will run in 2021. We can talk more about that in a bit, Jeremy, but this team has big plans for the future. Hopefully 2 cars in 2021, 2 new cars, and I know the Palmers want to be a part of that. Right now, like I said, you get good racing all throughout the field.
You do, it's tremendous, and you're right, you're talking about the new cars that will come on board for this championship for next season, the 2nd generation LMP3 cars. There's new cars from Ligier and Duquesne, which is the new name for the Norma effort. They've already been racing this year in Europe, those cars, so they kind of got the bugs worked out, they hope. But the new Ligier certainly appears to be a lot more competitive than is this version of the initial version of the Ligier JSP3, and a lot of excitement, I think, about that new car for next year. And you're right, and of course, in the LMP3 cars are also going to be involved next season as a class in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship as well. So there's opportunities to race not only this generation of car that we're seeing right now, but also the new car as well in both championships for 2021.
9.5 months ago, the season started, the 2020 IMSA Prototype Challenge season, and in 2 hours and 34 minutes, we'll crown a champion. It seems like it has been a long, long time. And this race, just one of 2 endurance races. We start the season with one, and then we'll finish the season here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta with a 3-hour enduro to crown the 2020 champion. Dominic Cicero in the 54, up to 4th. That's good for his teammate Dakota Dickerson. Dickerson if he wins this race, if he and Cicero win this race, they need the number 64, Naveen Rao and Matt Bell, to finish fourth or worse in order for Dickerson to have the championship. But as they've said, hey, look, this is not a different weekend for us. We go to every race trying to win it. That's what we're going to try to do here, and put it on the top step of the podium. What happens with the 64 happens with the 64. We can't drive that one. We can only drive the 54 that we're in right now. Cicero beginning to take the fight to Dan Goldberg. And this is something that we were talking about just a little bit ago, Jeremy, and that is longer runs. The Ligier seems to have good balance. Now, the 6 of Dan Goldberg in a Ligier chassis as well, but Cicero beginning to really close in. The unfortunate thing for him, though, is he's not getting rid of Stephen Thomas there in the 11.
He's not managed to shake him off at all, has he? You're absolutely right. These are the two best placed Ligiers in the field. Number 11 car behind him, that is another Norman. That is Stephen Thomas, who started on the front row, and he's hanging right with these two. I'm super impressed with Stephen Thomas. I know I've said it several times already, but for somebody with so little experience to show, you know, such maturity in this whoops, as we see, as I said that, there he goes, locks up the brakes at turn 7 and loses a fair bit of ground. He's now going to come out under pressure from a veteran driver, Jerry Kraut. This is going to be interesting as they get down towards turn 10, the tight chicane, the left and right. I think probably Stephen Thomas is going to have to defend that position. He's already moved to the left-hand side of the racetrack. A heads-up driving there from Thomas.
Kraut now looks to the inside. He had looked outside, now inside. Nothing happening there, but something definitely happening here. Cars around backwards, and that is not where you want to be. That's the exit of turn 7, looking the wrong direction. Looks like the 47 involved. That's Joel Janko. Janko, third in the championship, and you were talking about drivers that you're super impressed with. He's another one, a veteran. Let's take a look here. The 60 in front of Cameron Castles. And it looks like Janko perhaps goes around on his own. Indeed he does. These cars do not have traction control or anti-lock brakes. And then Castles gets into the back of the 60 as he slows. So kind of a chain reaction, and Joel Janko unable to get the 47 restarted. Thomas now past LaHaye. Greg Palmer will be the next car in his sights, and a problem for Palmer, the number 3, up there at turn 3. He has gone around. We saw Lance Wilsey with a very similar spin, and once again, you come off at turn 3, and then you've got to quickly transition the car back to the left without traction control. You get in there and get just a little bit loose, and you try to move some weight to the back end of the car with the throttle and get some rear wheel spin, and there it is. Doesn't take long to get it around.
Yeah, it doesn't take long after I say what a good job he's doing for him to make a mistake either, does he? I'm sorry about that, Greg, but you really were doing a fine job there. It's a shame to punctuate it with a spin, but still, you know, he's had an excellent run.
He has had an excellent run, and they, like I said earlier, he and his son, Greg, having a great time out there, or his son Eric, I should say, having a great time. I can't imagine being able to do that with my kids. How great is that? You know, you can go hunting, you can go fishing, you can go to a ball game together, but to come and race together. And Greg had done some Porsche GT3 Cup stuff, and Eric had done some Spec Miata racing in the SCCA, and Greg said, well, I'm certainly not going to buy 2 Porsche GT3 Cup cars. Let's find a way to use one car for the both of us, and they have found a home here in IMSA Prototype Challenge. Naveen Rao has found a home out front here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta from the pole, led every lap, 14 seconds now in hand, and we would expect to see him with that pit stop here before long, as good battle. Stephen Thomas working his way back up towards the front after his pit stop, one of those cars that elected to stop early and take advantage of that second full course caution. John Brownson in front of him, that's not for position. Now the 3 is on pit road. Greg Palmer will climb out. Eric looks to be climbing in. are they just putting a water bottle in? Now Greg's going to get in, or Eric's going to get in, I should say.
And also onto pit lane is car number 54 for Dominic Cicero to hand over to Dakota Dickerson with 54 minutes in the book. So I think they are committed to a 3-stop strategy at this point in the race.
And I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I don't think they need to gamble and take any unnecessary chances. There's a racetrack where, yeah, you can get full course cautions because of the gravel traps, especially at the exit of 7 and there in 10A and 10B, but it's not a huge field of cars, 14 cars, so the opportunities are minimized when you have fewer cars on the racetrack. It's not like there are 30 or 35 cars out there, so I think it's a good bet to go ahead and get that done and not risk it. And of course, if you were going to risk it, if you were going to gamble, you needed to do that earlier on. You're now at the end of that stint, so you have to pit now because you're out of fuel, and you've kind of gone ahead and played the hand that you were dealt. You needed to make that decision if you were going to gamble a little bit earlier and see if you could maybe stop on the yellow and then get another lengthy yellow sometime later and only have to do one more stop.
Yeah, exactly right, Brad Till. Yes, on top of the strategy there. And for that number 54 team, MLT Motorsports, all of the teams here, they're allowed 5 sets of Michelin tyres for this entire race weekend. They've been very abstemious with their tyre usage during practice and qualifying, as we see there. That was, I think, yeah, okay, that's the number 86 car. It was just losing a position there to Bruce Hamilton. Finally, they've had a good battle as he brings that car onto pit lane. Number 54 car, they've been very abstemious, and as I say, they've saved a fresh set of tyres, anticipating having to make a 3rd pit stop during this race. So they'll give them a fresh set of Michelin tyres for the final stint. So they're already committed. They were committed coming into this event to making 3 stops. But the good news is they're going to have some fresh tyres, and that could be very, very beneficial in the latter stages of this race.
Lance Wilsey getting together with the 86 of Paul LaHaye there in turn 10. I think the door got opened up. Wilsey said, "I'll take it," and Paul LaHaye had no idea he was there. They pretty much wheel-to-wheel contact at the apex of 10A, and I think LaHaye was on his way into the pit lane anyway, but just got caught out there. Looks like no harm, no foul. The 40 now on pit road. Keith Grant, he'll hand that over to his brother. And I'm wondering where on the racetrack the 64 is right now. I would expect to see him. He's gone a long way, 56 minutes, but so has Joe Robillard, and we know Keith Grant is now on pit lane. Yeah. Everybody here in the next couple of laps will have done their first pit stop, and really it's the 11 of Stephen Thomas in 4th that's the first car out there who has already made one stop.
Indeed, and the Norman chassis, we talked about the difference between the Norman. Well, there's a big defence there by car number 6, that's Rasmus Lind, trying to keep Stephen Simpson behind him, unable to do so. The 75 car goes through there. Those two are teammates, both from Performance Tech Motorsports, and Rasmus Lind there, the young Swede, losing a place to the South African-born, but now American naturalised citizen Stephen Simpson, a massive amount of experience, of course, in the sports cars. Here is our race leader onto pit lane. 57 minutes completed in this race. What I was going to say before that little interruption was the Norma, because it's a little bit more slippery, has a bit more straight line speed than the Ligier, a little bit less downforce. It is better on fuel consumption than the Ligier. That explains why the Normas can generally go a little bit further on fuel than can the Ligiers. About half an hour into the race, we've now done an hour and over an hour and a half. So yeah, I would expect him in pretty soon here, and here indeed he comes right now.
I was going to say he might be able to get 58, 59 laps out of it. Would have completed 58 this time as he goes across the line. So time to bring that 11 in, get it topped up. I'm sure Thomas Merrill will climb behind the wheel. That will move Matt Bell into the lead. It's where the 64 car started. Naveen Rao put it on the pole, and Naveen Rao, Matt Bell, sights firmly set on the championship, as they have been all season long.
Really impressive
Thomas.
run here by Stephen Thomas, wasn't it, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, it really was, Jeremy. We've talked about his progression, and I mean, you've driven race cars. You certainly have studied race car drivers. You're an encyclopedia of knowledge, and I just find it impressive. You think back to drivers that you've seen do that kind of a job, that kind of a progression. Remember, it was only a year ago that you started racing at all, and hats off to every bronze driver that's in the field. We talked about the prowess of many of them, but it's just been fun to watch that progression throughout the season.
Yeah, it really has. And here's number 54 car. He's being lapped by, that's number 64, isn't it? So,
yeah, that's not what we want to see. Dakota Dickerson cannot be happy to see that.
No, that's with half the race down, and he's now a lap behind his championship rival. It's not ideal by any means.
Well, and you look through, and we talk about consistency and speed, and the 64 has had both. As we said at the very beginning of this show, they've had one victory, but they've only been off the podium one time. You look at Dakota Dickerson, he's had 2 podium finishes, one of those being a victory. So a victory, 1 other podium finishes, and then 2 fourths. So nothing to be ashamed of. They've never finished out of the top 5, but it's just been those couple of steps on the podium throughout the year that have made the difference. A point here, a point there, a position here, a position there. And he had closed the championship down a little bit after VIR and Mid-Ohio with the win at Mid-Ohio, but they could never really shake the 64. Look at this, Steven Simpson returning the favor of Rasmus Lind, gets the pass done down in turn 10A, and Lind, well, we'll take it a lap or 2 and see if he can get it back. But as I was saying, Dakota Dickerson and Dominic Cicero just never able to shake, it seemed like, the 64. If they finished 4th, the 64 finished 5th. You can never find a finish where they finished on the podium and 3, 4, 5 positions down the order was the 64. The 64 just consistent all year long. Hats off to Naveen Rao, Matt Bell for doing the driving, but also have to give congratulations to the KTR Motorsports team for doing such a good job. I'm not handing them the championship yet by any stretch of the imagination. It's just been a very, very impressive season so far for the 64.
Yeah, very much so it has. And, Naveen Rao, he's only been racing for a couple of years, so he's done a really good job as well. There's number 10 car still struggling for Stephen McAleer, and he's going to bring that car into pit lane one more time. Just a quick note here that Scott Andrews, the track record holder, he has reset the fastest lap of the race. He's a couple of laps. No, he's only 1 lap down, I think, to our race leader. Maybe it's 2 laps down. I have to wait and see where they are on the racetrack, having taken over from Jerry Cloud. But he has just set the new fastest lap of the race, a 1:16.984 for Scott Andrews. So he's the first guy in this race to get below 1:17. In fact, there's only 2 drivers who've been in the 17s. Matt Bell, a 17.1, and over the last couple of laps, Thomas Merrill turned a 17.8 as well. Nobody else has been below 1:18.
When you think about the experience that Scott Andrews has, we talked about it earlier, Jeremy, he has a lot of time in these LMP3 type cars racing in Europe and both here in the United States. So he has the experience, and now he has the fast lap time, 16.7 last time by.
This battle for second place is really, really good. It's been back and forth, hasn't it? 2 teammates, of course, so they're gonna, they know they're not in contention for the win here unless something really weird happens to number 64. A full minute behind in second positions, but so they're not challenging for the win. I think they're going to be respectful to each other. It's the first time with this team for Stephen Simpson. So his best result of this so far was in the first round of the championship at Daytona, when he finished in position. A super run by that crew here this weekend, Cambridge House and
His teammates down through the S's into turn 5.
This battle is the one to watch right ahead of him on the racetrack. It's car number 54 now. That's Dakota Dickerson. He's way down in 7th position. Another lap behind this trio of cars behind him. There's a good move by Rasmus Lind at turn 7 to get back past Wyatt Schwab. So that's number 6 car ahead again. Here's a pit stop for a third place car. 52 minutes remaining. No doubt about it. Scott Andrews can get to the end from here. This is a super battle now. It will be for third position once they come across the line. It's the 3 car of Lance Wilsey, who's back behind the wheel of that number. Short motorsport entry. 5 or 6 laps down now. Bud Gross back into the middle stint. Lance Wilsey is back at the wheel now, and he's wisely given way in this battle. That's back. Rasmus Lind and Schwab.
So Tom Merrill still out in front, Matt Bell, Steven Simpson, and we know that we're expecting pit stops by all of the top 5 cars. And Jeremy, you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. When you look to LMP3 running in WeatherTech next year, that's going to be exciting. They're going to have their own championship. The 9 car does their stop. Andrews will be back out. He's good to go to the end. And I would expect to see the other dominoes begin to fall.
Yeah, agreed. I think we'll see a rash of pit stops very shortly now. It's for the leaders, however, you're probably better off staying out as long as you can, because if there is a full course caution, they can make their stop under yellow. That would be a big strategic advantage for anybody.
So Lind trying to hold off the 74. Wyatt Schwab really putting the pressure on, and that's we've seen Wyatt. Oh, and a wiggle there up the hill into turn 1.
Yeah, these two are on the limit, aren't they? They really are. This is a super battle that's going on, and Steven Simpson, because of this battle, has managed to pull a couple of seconds between himself. He's Simpson in the blue and yellow car, with the blue and red car, the Motel 6 entry of Rasmus Lind, desperately trying to hold off that Norma chassis of Wyatt Schwab, 47 Motorsports in car number 74.
Yeah, Schwab really putting the pressure on. So you got 2 young guns there doing battle as we close in on the 2020 championship. Now inside 50 minutes to go.
Oops. There's Lance Wilsey backwards again.
And every time somebody loops it there, and it's hard to describe if you've not been on the racetrack as the 11, Tom Merrill, your leader, comes to pit road. It's hard to describe how difficult it is to see around turn 7, the exit of that corner. And when you're sitting there backwards, it is not where you want to be by any stretch of the imagination. Wilsey gets the car to the inside, and he'll get it back underway. But every time someone goes around backwards there, we saw Joel Janko off there a little bit earlier. We saw the 86 off as well. It's just a precarious place to be. And now the final pit stop at 2020 for the 11, 74 in as well. And the 77th lap was the last time that we saw Matt Bell in the 64, the championship leader. So you do the math there and you come up with lap 115 before we would expect to see him. So another 15, 16 laps at least before I expect to see him. And there's that near miss. That was like a piece of paper between Those cars coming around the corner, and Lance Wilsey. How do you think that looked from Lance Wilsey's seat?
Yeah, not terribly good. I don't think he'll be happy to get that car out of the way. He looks like he'd have to do a 3-point turn to get back facing the right direction again, but he'll be happy not to be in the firing line at the exit of turn 7. We've already seen several really close calls at that corner earlier in this 3-hour race, and that was really tight. But no harm, no foul. He's got away with it. Number 64 car continues out in front, and the number 11 car is going to rejoin after his pit stop.
Okay, so that's key. So the 64 just came by as the leader, and Merrill out of the pits right behind him. So we know that it's going to have to be that minimum, or that time to pit stop for the 64 when they pit. So you would think that they might leave Bell out for the entire fuel load. He's running good laps. Let him put in faster and faster laps, build that gap between he and Merrill as much as they possibly can before they make that stop at the end.
Yeah, I think right now there's another spin from number 86 car as well. That's Chip Romer. He's having an interesting time out there, isn't he? Number 64, and I've lost count of number of spins between numbers 86, not 64, 86 and 33, but it's going to be getting up to a double figures, I think, between the pair of them. But there doesn't seem to be any damage on either car. They're able to carry on and continue to have some fun. Or there may be something just trailing a little bit off the back end. I think Cheese Wedge, maybe that left rear bodywork on number 86 car might be a little bit deranged finally for him, as Matt Bell continues to run very quick laps out in front. His last lap, this lap was a 1:17.0. His previous lap was a 1:16.9. That's within a tenth of a second of his fastest lap of the race. So Matt Bell pushing hard in that car number 64. Number 11 car rejoins behind him down to the number 64 car, but one lap down, that's no problem, because when 64 car makes his own pit stop, he's going to lose more than that lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's where Tom Merrill needs to really be digging. But for Matt Bell, he needs to think about this. Okay, Dakota Dickerson is being shown there in 5th. For the 54 to win this championship, they need to win, and Matt Bell, Naveen Rao need to finish 4th or worse. So even if Dakota Dickerson finishes 2nd, I believe it's one of those things where Naveen Rao and Matt Bell must finish 6th or worse. So right now they're in the catbird seat, and while you would love to put a period on your championship by winning the final race of the season, I think it's one of those things that really the championship is more important than this race win right now. So, yeah, for Matt Bell, go put the laps in, and he's right down in the low 17s as he heads back out as he's out on the racetrack, I should say, and Tom Merrill's out there. But that's the key. He's turning in good lap times, solid lap times, and you're just going to have to see where the cards fall when Merrill gets back up to speed. But Merrill now on pit road again, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that a penalty?
Pit speed violation. Eight. Is it miles or kilometers? I can't remember. What's the pit lane speed? It's miles, isn't it? Miles an hour. +8. So drive-through penalty for car number 11. That is, well, I think definitely going to cost them the potential win here. That is a really surprising error for car number 11. Looks like we're going to go back to green this time around. We're just going to have a little bit over 5 minutes remaining in this race. We've got 3 cars on the lead lap then, 64, 11 and 9, still back into contention now. And then we've got another 5 cars 1 lap down, 74, 75, 6, 60 and 54.
Green flies one more time at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. 5.5 minutes to go in the 2020 season for IMSA Prototype Challenge, and Matt Bell leads the field up the hill. What can Tom Merrill do? He was 5th in the order at the start, but 2nd in the running order. He's got 3 lap cars in front of him that he needs to work by if he wants to take the fight to his teammate Matt Bell and try to come home with the victory. And so far, he has not been able to make ground at all on the 3 cars in front of him. Just in front is the 75 of Steven Simpson. That won't be an easy pass to make.
It won't, no. Steven Simpson running in the 5th position behind Wyatt Schwab, ahead of his own teammate number 6, who's right there in that train of cars. It's 75-11, which is on the lead lap, 6, which isn't. Between the 75 and the 6, we've seen them battling pretty much all the way through this race, haven't we? And they're still squabbling over what will effectively be 5th position as Merrill makes that pass on the number 75 car. So that's 1 car picked off for the number 11, but still a fair deficit to catch up with number 64.
Kind of gives you an idea when you use the word deficit of the straight line speed deficit with the Ligier chassis compared to that of the Norma. The Norma very fast in a straight line. Merrill made quick work of it, and now he's got his sights set ahead. Still 2 cars to go before he can get to the rear wing of the 64. What does Matt Bell have underneath him? What's the wheel feel like? Is it straight anymore after that contact? Is there a vibration? It's not just the race win that's on the line. Potentially it is the championship. It's all come down to this with less than 4 minutes to go in the season. It all started 9.5 months ago at Daytona. It's come down to this, Jeremy.
Yeah, this has been a tremendous season. We've still got all sorts of battles out on the racetrack, by the way. Number 54 car, Dakota Dickerson, he's just managed to sneak past Tony Kazmets on this last lap, so up into 7th position. That battle continues then. We've got those 5 cars, just 1 lap down to our overall race leader. And we're going to have to keep an eye also on Scott Andrews. Can he catch Thomas Merrill? He, I think, is mired in traffic on his own in that car number 9 in 3rd position. He's got some cars in between himself and Thomas Merrill in 2nd place.
Well, and now Andrews has to deal with Rasmus Lind and Steven Simpson in front of him. And once again, we've seen how competitive Rasmus Lind is, Steven Simpson as well. The only thing Andrews really has going for him right now is that Norma chassis. When he gets to the back straightaway, you think he'll have a straight line speed advantage, but the back straightaway is a long way away. They've got to go all the way through the diving S's, 5, 6, 7. Then he can take advantage of the straight line that the Norma seems to have. Matt Bell still out in front, and the 4th car in line is the 11 of Tom Merrill. That is the 2nd place car in the order, but I don't think he has been able to make any ground on the 2 cars in front of him.
He hasn't, you're right. In fact, the last couple of laps, Merrill has actually been able to stretch that lead over the number 9 car. So the gap between 1st and 2nd, 2.7 seconds last lap. Between 2nd and 3rd, 3.8 seconds. And with only a couple of minutes remaining in this race, I don't think we're going to see the white flag this time by. There'll be 2 more laps in this race.
I think you're right, Jeremy. Inside 2 minutes, but with 1 minute and 18-second lap times. I believe Matt Bell will need another 5 miles once he crosses the line. Bell through the apex of turn 12. Indeed, 2 more laps for the race win. 2 more laps for the championship for he and Naveen Rao and this entire K2R Motorsports team. Dakota Dickerson looking a little racy there with Rasmus Lind.
Yeah, he's certainly got the pace. He's gone past him. So there's another position gain for Dakota Dickerson. He's certainly not giving up yet, is he? He's got past his fellow youngster there, Rasmus Lind, who's struggling in this late stint. And now, number 54 is going to try and set his sights on number 75. But I don't think he's going to have quite enough time to catch him.
Well, it's one of those things that you talked about it and wishing no ill will to anybody as we're inside 1 minute to go, and it'll be the white flag this time by for Matt Bell. But if he should have a problem, if that collision, that contact should indeed create some kind of a problem and he's unable to finish, Dickerson is doing what he needs to do, and that's move forward in the order, because that would drop the 64 down. This championship, this race is not over through turns 10, A and B. One more time for Matt Bell. He just needs 1 more lap around Road Atlanta to claim not only the victory, but the championship. And this race has not been without its drama, and it came late for Matt Bell in the 64 with that off in turn 5 that we saw just a few laps ago. Final lap here at Road Atlanta, final lap in the 2020 season. Empty racetrack in front. What's going through Matt Bell's mind right now, Jeremy?
He's just hoping that there's going to be no lingering effects from the mistake he made about 10-15 minutes ago. But he's just got to concentrate now, just focus forward, just hit his marks these last few corners, and he'll be coming home with a win and a championship.
Down the long back straightaway at Road Atlanta one more time, and you think of all the laps that have been run this year, the mistakes that you made, the things that you wish you could have back, and I'm not sure there are many of those for the K2R Motorsports squad. Naveen Rao has improved so much as a race car driver, and he's proved it with 3 pole positions on the year. It will now be 2 race victories on the year, and most importantly, Naveen Rao, Matt Bell claimed the championship for IMSA Prototype Challenge, the 2020 season, and it all came down to this at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. Welcome back to Road Atlanta, where the final round of the 2020 IMSA Prototype Challenge Series has completed, and the 64 car from K2R Motorsports has capped the championship in style with the win today. Let's hear from our champions.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we tried to plan different scenarios. Obviously, the championship was top of mind, but of course we wanted to win it. We've had a lot of difficulty early in the season. We didn't get as many wins as we wanted. This is our second for the season. But we had consistent results, and I think coming in, we tried to think it through, and frankly, it never goes how you think it's going to. So Matt went and had to deal with some tire things and things like that, but it was kept it right in front. We had good pace the whole time.
To be honest, I didn't have a clue what was going on. To be honest, I was just so focused on trying to keep the consistent laps. Earlier in the race, we felt we were in a good position, and I just kind of went into cruise mode for a bit. And then the pace of some other cars around us started to get quite quick, so I thought, well, better see what she's got underneath me. Started pushing a bit harder for about an hour of the 2-hour stint. And then at the end, it was clear that, just had to protect the lead. There were a few cars between us and P2 and P3 after that last caution, so it wasn't the ideal scenario. It was nice pre-caution to have just stayed out front, but I was confident in those last 10, 11 minutes to have held it and bring it home.
Taking a look at the results now, Matt Bell and Naveen Rao ended the championship with emphasis, winning their second race of the year and solidifying themselves as the class of the field. What a way to end a championship season. Steve Thomas Merrill, they come home where they started in second. Great drives by both of those drivers, and Steve Thomas, what an improvement he's made throughout the season. The 9 car from JDC Motorsports climbs the ladder from 9th to 3rd at the checkered flag. And looking down the results, back in 6th, you see the championship contending car, number 54 of Dakota Dickerson and teammate Dominic Cicero. And in spite of their best efforts, that result just wasn't enough to get them beyond Rao and Bell for the title. An emotional weekend for Joel Janko, finishing 9th in his final race of his career in the 47 from 47 Motorsports. Janko teamed up this weekend with Jonathan George and up-and-coming young U.S. star Kyle Kirkwood. And while we'll miss Joel Janko in the future, that's for sure, Kyle Kirkwood is a name that we are sure to be hearing much more often. Taking a look at the second page, it's the number 40 that really jumps out there, being shown not running in 13th place. That result not representative at all of the drives that Keith and David Gratt both put in today after starting 3rd this morning. While the championship celebration continues in victory lane for K2R Motorsports, let's take a look at the championship points. They tally up like this. K2R Motorsport drivers Naveen Rao and Matt Bell took the points lead after the second round at Sebring and never looked back. Their final championship margin, 16 points over Dakota Dickerson and his MLT squad. Joel Janko in his final season finishes 3rd in the championship. Great run for Joel Janko this year, and what a great ambassador for the sport. I followed him through open wheel racing. He finishes his career here in IMSA Prototype Challenge, and as I said, a great ambassador for the sport. Hopefully we'll see him some more around the racetrack. Dan Goldberg with some great drives this season takes 4th in the championship, and Jerry Kraut, Scott Andrews, round out the top 5. What a season it has been. It started in the rain back at Daytona at the Roar with Joel Janko and Jonathan George winning in round 1. And then the pandemic hits. None of us knew what was in store, but with a lot of hard work on IMSA's part, we got back to racing, and Jerry Kraut and Scott Andrews won back-to-back at Sebring and Road America. Our champions found victory lane for the first time at VIR, but the season was far from over as Dakota Dickerson made his intentions very clear by winning at Mid-Ohio. But in the end, the year belongs to Bell and Rao, and they did it in style, winning the race today and wrapping up the championship. What a great year, and congrats to all the KTR Motorsports team, and a big thank you to all the fans. We'll see you next year. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, NBC is your home for motorsport and the exclusive network for all of IMSA sports car racing.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of the International Motorsports Association. We would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.